Is Jeff Gross, member of the Board of Works. So, Jeff, could you signify that you're there by saying aye?
Jeff Gross, aye.
All right, and of course George Clemens is here, so we have our full meeting with Jeff being remote. Also online is, I know, Jeff Beeler and Scott Royst, City Attorney and Street Superintendent. So we'll get started with the meeting. Again, all votes will have to be roll call today. We'll start with the approval of the minutes from the 4/17 meeting.
Jeff, I looked over those minutes and didn't see anything. Did you?
Jeff Gross here. No, I did this week related to the minutes. I was able to see the leaf back at the street department as well as the paver. That was very encouraging. So hopefully a good purchase for the city, and I appreciate Jeff's efforts and his ability to work with the attorney and the mayor. So good deal.
Good.
With that, Jeff Gross, I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, Jeff Gross
Aye.
and George Clemens.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Welcome to our visitors. And I don't believe, Lynn, any reports, oral and written communications that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
Do you have to give an eye on the minutes too, Joe?
Um,
Roll call yourself.
I will roll call myself. Aye. Thank you. I'm not used to doing that.
It's like
All right.
talking to yourself.
Oh, I do that. All right, let's move to new business. We'll start with the mayor. We'll present the KEDCO Small Business Loan MOU. This was drawn up by the city attorney per the direction of the city council. It lays out the details for the loan committee at KEDCO to utilize the wishes of the city and how our portion will be spent. And again, that's $100,000 from the edit fund. Those loans will be $10,000.
Here's what I found.
Those loans will be not forgivable. They will be paid back in 30 months, the first loan not being due till 180 days later. All funds repaid to the KEDCO from the loan funds will be returned to the city within 30 days. Again, this is loan fund is intended for COVID-19 and not intended to be a revolving loan fund. There are no forgivable terms for these loans, so all these monies will be paid back over a period of 30 months. Loans will be considered through the end of the 2020 calendar year or when the loan funds are exhausted, whichever comes first. Jeff, I know you were involved in the council discussion. Any questions before we motion on this?
Just on behalf of the council, I greatly appreciate the discussion, also your efforts, Mayor, to, again, through this, I think I mentioned life preserve, right? I really appreciate it, and good faith effort. I have no concerns at this time, and again, thank you.
All right, George, any questions?
Well, I'll second what he said. KEDCO's been a great asset to this community and to this county, and I'll move we approve the memorandum of understanding.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Jeff Gross, second.
All right. Roll call vote. Jeff Gross.
Aye.
George Clemens.
Aye.
Joe Tolmer. Aye. All right, motion passes. I do want to note that last night we were notified that the Community Development Block Grant loan through Okra that KEDCO applied for this same loan fund was approved by the state. And they were awarded $245,000 in addition to the $100,000 that the city has put up. So those funds will be used a little bit differently. Those are actually grants. They are completely forgivable. They do have certain income requirements to them. So for the information on those, obviously Alan and his committee will be handling that. But it feels good to be a part of a community effort that way, and have more funds to leverage. So that was all good news last night. I'm sure that we'll all read about that. All right, item number 2, this is a contract with, I believe it's Grace College and Lily Lakes and Streams. Let me look real quick. It's to utilize their logo and their brand. And I'm going to read Stacy's introductory letter here that basically explains what's happening.
Joe, I'm actually on if you would like
Oh.
for me to just share.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the Clearly Casiasto brand is a collaborative community brand that has been discussed for well over a year and has now been implemented by the Lilly Center for Lakes and Streams in partnership with several other agencies in town. And it's really to tell the story of Casiasto County and just to create a sense of place for us as we try to encourage different people to come here to partake in our natural resources and our restaurants and all of the different amenities that we have in our community, really to help promote our sense of community, not just internally for the county, but to those outside of our county, looking at our county as an entire community. And so we would like to help support this. We feel like that's fitting for the city of Warsaw to support that branding effort, especially through our social media page, which is where I see us using it the most. And so we would like to move forward with that. They wanted to do it the right way, and so they have it trademarked, and they are handling licensing of that branding through trademark agreements instead of just handing out logos to random people for them to use. And so that does require a trademark license agreement for us, but it is free of cost for us to do that.
All right, wonderful. And I know a lot of you have seen those billboards, and I think it seems to be a pretty effective message. A lot of county organizations are really excited about the ability to do this. Questions from the board?
Jeff Gross, Stacy, the last statement you made in your memo to us, it's a trademark licensing agreement. It's free for us to participate. It protects the brand and integrity. That covers the 10 pages of the agreement, right?
Essentially, yes. I mean, the licensing agreement is saying that we will follow their brand standards, which I believe I had also attached just for you to see. Little things like we won't use it with certain color backgrounds and different things like that. And that we will only use it in appropriate ways. It really is just to protect the use of that brand so that it's being used in a cohesive way in the community. And this is what you see with most company branding. They do it in a professional way like this. So these agreements are in place for those as well. And this is just following suit to do it in a professional manner.
And it gives them control, obviously, if it's being what they consider misused. So, yeah, I fully agree with this as well. Good questions, Jeff. Thank you, Stacy, for the explanation. George, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions on that.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the trademark licensing agreement?
So moved. George Clemens.
Is there a second?
Jeff Gross, second.
All right.
Jeff Gross, second.
All right. Roll call vote. Jeff Gross.
Aye.
George Clemens.
Aye.
Joe Tallmer. Aye. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Stacy, for your work on that.
Thanks.
Okay. Building and plan, Market Street change order number 10. Jeremy's with us today and will present the change order.
Yes, you have two change orders. The memo covers both of those, but they are change order 10 and 11, both for Market Street. The first change order number 10, is in the amount of $4,042.08, which is for signs. The wrong size signs were made. The plans had an error in them that they were calling for signs that would be on a state highway, not in a urban neighborhood. So they made 2-foot signs. They were like 24 inches wide. They were too big, so we had to remake those signs. So that's what that change order is for. Change order number 11, typically at the end of every project, they do a material quantities calculation based on what was estimated and what was actually put in place. The material overruns for this project were $107,087.82. Typically, we do get these numbers. We should have gotten these numbers last year. I don't know why it took them so long to get them, but This is pretty typical at the end of any project. They'll go through and any minus and plus on materials, and then you'll have one change order that covers those material costs. Total change orders for both is $111,129.90, and they will be paid for out of edit. And it'll be paid to NDOT. NDOT administers the payments to the contractor, so we will get an invoice from NDOT, and then we will pay that directly to them, and then they'll pay it to the contractor.
Questions?
I do have a question on that. Whose error was it? You say, was that the engineers, whoever drew up the plans?
Yes.
That the signs,
Yeah.
okay. But the 4,000 is to actually have the signs remade and they are bigger, right?
Well, they are the proper size. Originally, I think the lengths were like 4 foot and then 2 foot wide, so it was like if it was on a US 30, not in a residential neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Our signs, and I don't know if they're like 12 inches wide or 6 inches wide. The lettering's 6 inches. These were like 24-inch signs, way too large for
Market Street.
Yeah. Jeff, are you okay with these?
I have no concerns with change order number 10 or change order number 11. No, no concerns.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we accept those change orders.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Jeff Gross, second.
All right, roll call vote. Jeff Gross.
Aye.
George Clemens.
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right. So that will cover both items number 3 and 4. Change orders 10 and 11 for the Market Street project. Item number 5 is an agreement with Anderson and Bolander for Argonne Road study. Jeremy?
So a few years back when we did Stellar, this was an area we had targeted for potential redevelopment and some improvements, infrastructure improvements along that Argonne Road corridor. A few months back, we were approached by KEDCO with a potential study from Anderson Bolander to look at different things we could do to redevelop that corridor. In conjunction, they were talking to Winona Lake at the same time to put us both together to do a plan because it will benefit both of us. So what you have is an agreement with Anderson Bolander to do this study, and the total study amount is $28,640. Our contribution, I didn't put it in the memo, but our contribution would be $15,000, and it will come out of the Winona Interurban TIF district. So those will be TIF funds that will pay our portion. But in essence, it goes along with our plans that we've done for Market Street and our continual plans to try to redevelop the Gackey property and the Arnault property in the future. So really the plan is just kind of laying out possibilities and ways we can redevelop this corridor and those properties that have sit abandoned for a number of years.
So that Winona Interurban TIF district has been pretty stagnant, and there have been small amounts of funds that have increased in there. I know there's not a big balance in there, but the use of those funds for this project would be most appropriate because the significance of potentially creating a significant development within that interurban TIF district is what this is all about. So I have no problem with the use. The only issue, I think we have to transfer the funds, as you mentioned, from 400s to the professional services. Yeah. So that'll happen, I believe, Monday night at the council meeting. But I didn't know, with that being said and being reflected in the notes, I don't know that there's a problem with going ahead and getting your approval to do this. Again, the amount for our portion will be $15,000 of the $28,640. Town of Winona Lake is going to contribute to that, and then KEDCO as well. So, questions?
No.
Mr. Gross, any questions?
I have no questions. I move to accept the request.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call vote. Jeff Gross,
Aye.
George Clemens,
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right, thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for your work on that, and we'll see you Monday night. Mr. Beeler has joined us, and we'll be discussing a traffic signal modernization engineering request for USI Consultants. Jeff?
Yep, we're hoping to move forward with a contract with USI Consultants. It's for engineering services for those intersections at Center and Lake and Center in Indiana, which are the next two after the Buffalo Street to be modernized. The goal was hopefully this year to have one of those done, but with everything going on and with virus and construction timelines, I think we're just going to engineer both of those this year, and then hopefully next year have both of them then reconstructed. Is the goal, and so this is engineering going towards that. So,
All right, Jeff.
Total cost amount of $60,000.
And I appreciate your concerns in trying to stay ahead of this thing. I know that this does somewhat interrelate with the signal modernization that's going on 15, that's tying into the railroad tracks and all the work that's done there. We want to do this right so that potentially all that can be tied in. And Jeremy, I know you're here. If you have any comments to make on that, I appreciate hearing that because the need to do the Center Street crossings, we'll do these three, and then I believe the state will do 15 and Detroit Street and Center Street. So Jeff, any comments on the connectivity of this project with the 15 and Railroad?
So yeah, we've been working with both those over the past about year and a half, and the railroad is going to be communicating with NDOT specifically, and those two will be working together to control vehicular train traffic on that section, and then we will talk to NDOT signals, and they will kind of tell us what they're doing. That way we can hopefully improve, increase, or decrease green light times to provide better traffic flow after a crossing event has occurred. A lot of times right now, after a train goes through, the green cycle times stay the same, and so traffic is backed up both directions, east and west on Center Street. And with this new technology and all of us being able to be on the same page together, we'll be able to increase those cycle times and hopefully improve traffic flow and reduce the standing traffic queue that gets backed up. So that's the whole goal of this. We will also be able to control it for weather events if necessary, or downtown events, or anything that we might need to control these signals for to help improve traffic flow within our downtown area on Center Street. So.
All right, questions?
No, I'll move we approve the contract with USI Consultants.
All right. Jeff?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Jeff Gross?
Aye.
George Clemens?
Aye.
Joe Tolmer? Aye. All right. Thank you, Jeff. And now some big news on the Community Crossings grant. If you would like to present the project and what we need to do today to get that rolling.
Yes, back in, I think, February 1st, we submitted for community crossings for the reconstruction of Johnson and Lincoln addition, those two streets, and we were awarded that grant, and part of half of that estimated project is $497,822. And so today, we have the contract that NDOT has sent us to finalize to be able to receive those funds, and this is the first step in that. The bid project is currently out to bid. Today was the final posting date. Bids will be open next Friday, with an award planning on being given May the 15th, so the next Board of Works meeting, so we can get this project going. We hope for a completion date of November 1st. So very excited about the revitalization of phase one of this addition that's been in existence for quite some time. So very excited about this.
Thanks, Jeff. I know you've worked hard, and sometimes Community Crossings gets a little bit competitive, and there's a lot of people vying for those dollars, but your successful application is most appreciated. Can you talk a little bit about what our residents in those areas will expect this summer. I know you're going to get around and meet with them. With our COVID crisis, it's a little tougher to have a public meeting, whether we'll do a Zoom meeting or we'll just individually send out information. There will certainly be some disruption in the neighborhood as that construction occurs. So we want to make sure that they're well informed about the timeline and exactly what's going to happen. And then part two, could you explain exactly what the results of this project will be when it's all said and done? In other words, all this disruption, as we tell folks when it's happening, it'll all be worth it in the end. So can you talk a little bit about those things, please?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, bids will hopefully be received the 8th and then approved on the 15th. After that point in time, we will be with the contractor and get a start date for sure. At that time, we can let the residents out there know what that start date will be. Here, hopefully within the next week, as soon as printing comes back for aerial photography of what the construction will look like on those roads, which has been delayed apparently by the virus as well. As soon as those come in, we will be meeting with residents and showing them what the scope of the project is. And I'll kind of briefly discuss that. It'll be all new pavement, all new drainage. Sidewalks will be installed and moved back from edge of pavement. They'll look much like what our Lincoln school project looked like, where there's a separation between the roadway and grass, and all new driveway approaches to tie into the new roadway. So it'll be a complete rehab of everything within the right-of-way that will really kind of bring an entire facelift to that subdivision.
And it's not the entire subdivision, correct? Can you, again, clarify what roads will be impacted?
Yes, it'll be Lincoln Drive and Johnson Street.
Okay.
Lincoln Drive from Lincoln Street to the dead end, and then Johnson from Lincoln to Lindbergh.
And certainly between the street department and the contractor, the disruptions will be certainly, I'm not going to say minimal. I'm sure there will be disruptions, but those will all be articulated to the residents, and hopefully we can minimize the inconvenience. But I assume that as driveway approaches are redone, there may be some difficulty getting in and out.
Yeah, there could be temporary delays in the driveway sections. That'll probably be the biggest part. They are required to make sure everybody has access to their homes, and for individuals that may need special assistance, we will be working with those individuals to make sure that they do not have any issues getting in or out of their home. So hopefully all that will be taken into account, and we will provide the best communication that we possibly can throughout the project to make everything go as easy as possible.
All right, and these funds that we were awarded, just under $500,000, that will cover the entire project, correct?
So that is half of the project.
Okay.
Community crossings for Warsaw due to the population is a 50-50 grant.
Okay,
So this is half of the estimated cost of the project, and then the city is providing the second half.
and I know those funds were allocated this year, assuming that we would get that grant, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so that is a pretty good thumbnail of description of what's going to happen. Questions? Jeff, I know that's in your district and your neighborhood there. Any questions?
Well, for Jeff Gross, the first thing I'd like to do is thank Superintendent Beeler. I spent just over an hour with him last week going through all the details of the plan of attack to help inform the neighbors and prep them for what's going to happen. I think we have a really good plan in place. He really has a lot of nails driven, and he's very, very comfortable with his plan of attack. And again, I'm really encouraged for those residents. It appears that it's going to be one of 3 phases. There's just a lot of factors, and then obviously $1 million plus investment in that neighborhood. So patience, time is going to be needed by all. But I do believe Jeff and I, the superintendent and I, will be going into the neighborhood within the next 3 to 4 weeks and informing them, giving them all the details. And again, thanks Jeff, thanks for all the stakeholders involved with this.
And thank you, Jeff Gross, for doing your due diligence for your area.
All right, so is there a motion to approve this contract?
Jeff Gross, I would move to approve.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Jeff Gross,
Aye.
George Clemens,
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right. Thanks, Jeff Beeler, appreciate it. All right, item number 8 is a consulting agreement with Wagner Shealy with HR. Jennifer?
Yes, this is just, I ask that you accept the consulting service agreement with Wagner that you were talking about. This is going to help me with our personnel policy handbooks. The biggest project is going to be separating the general handbook from police and fire, or police and fire from general. Everybody's going to have their own handbooks. As you know, our handbooks are essential in employment law, but also we use these handbooks for benefit time, can be recruiting, could be retaining employees. Our current handbook was done in 2015. We've had 4 amendments to that, and we're ready for some fresh eyeballs on it.
All right.
And we've used them before.
We
for-
have.
Yeah, name looks in there, so,
Yes. They help us with our job description overview as well.
yeah. Okay, good. I'll make a motion, we accept the consulting services agreement.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Jeff Gross, second.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Jeff Gross,
Aye.
George Clemens,
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right. Thank you. You've got a wage and hire report. Jennifer?
Right, we have 3 officers actually getting ready to come on board. One of them you're going to see is a TBA. That's because this individual is still in background test. We're still waiting for one more to come through, but essentially we'd like to get them all started at the same time for training purposes once that individual has been through. But Paige will be coming on board, and Mason Metzinger, they're both approved by pension. I do have a little note right underneath that for summer seasonal hourly programming individuals, and that, I just went through permission to start the process should and when the city may start opening back up, if you will. We know the grass is going to continue to grow, and so we do have some departments that are wanting to get prepared for those hires, and the sooner that we can send notice out to the employees who may be returning, the quicker we can get that work for the departments, such as cemetery and
So this right now is kind of for discussion purposes, or you're asking for approval
I'm
when we
asking,
make that move?
when we're ready to make that move, I just want the permission to be able to get those people on board. We have 3 returning employees that are staged, ready to go. But we're just waiting for summertime to kind of kick off.
Yeah, and I could add a little to that. As we move forward with this thing, we don't know how quickly recreational programs, for example, are going to be allowed to be implemented. So there's a little bit of uncertainty where we stand with those types of employees. As far as mowing the grass and some of the summer projects that we do, I assume that we obviously will need to mow the grass, but again, it depends on the amount of the volume of work that we're all able to return to do. So and this is just very fluid, and I think this is an appropriate ask, but we will certainly, now these folks, when you hire them, you will bring them back and ask for their approval individually.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I haven't done that in the past, but I can.
Yeah, I think it would,
if you want us to.
given that we're kind of giving you the authority to go ahead with that now, I would, once you get them hired, I'd like for you to at least show us what you've hired
Okay.
when you come back.
And this also helps us fill the need. We have several departments right now that are not fully staffed full-time employees. This will help offset until everybody knows where they're standing, if you will.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Strange times. I will make a motion that we approve the new hire change report as presented. With the leeway there.
All right, is there a second?
Jeff Gross, second.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote. Jeff Gross,
Aye.
George Clemens,
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There are two special claims. Jeff, I don't think you've been made privy to these. There's an 802 East Center Street. This is the purchase of the property that we approved at the last meeting, in the amount of $305,000 for the senior housing project. And the second item is to Kedco for $100,000, and that would be a release of the funds for the emergency loan relief for small businesses. So those are the two special claims that are being considered here. Do you have any questions on those? Again, both these have been
Jeff Gross,
approved.
Jeff Gross, no questions.
No, I have no questions.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
Jeff Gross, so moved.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote, Jeff Gross,
Aye.
George Clemens,
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right, and then considering the claims docket that I know we've all been presented prior to the meeting, are there any questions?
I didn't have any questions. Did you, Jeff?
Jeff Gross, no questions.
Okay. I'll move we approve the claims docket as presented.
All right, is there a second?
Jeff Gross, second.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, Jeff Gross,
Aye.
George Clemens,
Aye.
Joe Tolmer, aye. All right. Any further items to be carried forward to the board today? All right. Just checking to see. All right, Jeff Beeler has texted me and said we have to sign our NDOT contract in blue ink, so let's not forget to do that today. We need blue ink. All right, well,
That's
we need
better than
blue
red.
ink.
That's better than red
I don't
ink.
have a pen with me.
All right, I think Jennifer's got one. All right, hearing no other issues, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff.
Take care, George.
Okay,